Each day, more and more people are listening to music on Spotify, and that's also true for podcasts. Next time you're on the Spotify app, make sure to follow Thrive Loud with Lou Diamond. Enjoy listening to Lou, his incredible guests, and all of the amazing episodes. Listen, follow, and share. Thrive Loud on Spotify.
You're probably thinking, my boyfriend said this was a superhero movie, but that guy in the red suit just turned that other guy into a fucking kebab. Well, I may be super, but I'm no hero. And yeah, technically this is a murder, but some of the best love stories start with a murder. And that's exactly what this is. Thrive Loud with Lou Diamond. And to tell her right, I gotta take you back long before Lou squeezed his ass into red spandex.
Get ready to thrive loud with Lou Diamond.
Hey, Thrive Loud listeners, Lou Diamond here. You're really going to enjoy this upcoming episode pulled from Bedside Readings, Authors That Thrive, with Wendy Wilkins. One, she's got a great Australian accent. We'll start with that. But two, her book, Sex, Love, and Cops, is pretty cool and really timely, I guess, at this point, as she talks about her career as a police officer and actually a lot of the things going on here in the States, even though she was a police officer in Australia. You'll get a chance to really understand a little bit about her, what inspires her. She's an actress, she's a filmmaker, and a really great writer. So this is going to be a fun conversation. You're really going to enjoy it. That being said, there's lots of great activities going on in Thrive Loud, a couple of Thrive Loud live episodes coming up that are going to be worth mentioning. And I'll also state that the last few guests from Peter Brandel, Doug Sandler, go listen to those episodes. Excellent engagement, really cool conversation on what some folks are doing. That being said, let's get to it. Here is Wendy Wilkins, pulled from Bedside Readings, Authors That Thrive, here on Thrive Loud.
Welcome to Bedside Readings, Authors That Thrive, a podcast show that provides you exclusive access to top writers around the globe and how they are thriving through their writing, their passions, and their lives. Here's your host, Lou Diamond.
Welcome, everyone, to Bedside Readings, Authors That Thrive, connecting you to amazing authors that are thriving through their work and in their lives each and every day. I'm your host, Lou Diamond. Today, we have an award-winning actress, writer, filmmaker based in Los Angeles. She's been a police officer and one of the most successful real estate agents in Australia. From acting in award-winning films and TV shows to writing screenplays to writing her memoir, Sex, Love, and Cops, which is about her 5 years as a cop in Melbourne, Australia, where she discovered her first arrest, first love, first murder, cops culture, cops and guns, and even a Me Too moment. A relatively newly minted American citizen via London and Australia, please welcome Wendy Wilkins. Wendy, how are you today?
I'm doing pretty good considering everything that's going on.
These are interesting times, and you're in LA, so let's take the temperature right now. We're recording this in late June of 2020, and obviously we've got, let's list it, COVID, protests, isolation, anything else I could list going on in the world that you're living in?
Yes, the fireworks that sound like gunshots. It's like, yeah, I'm all for them on 4th of July, but boy, it's a bit much.
Wendy, I've interviewed hundreds of people, and I am absolutely amazed at this resume that I just listed off to our listeners here, in the sense that you have this breadth of such an interesting experience. I'm going to start in an interesting place because I want to understand this. What made you now write about your experience as a police officer back when you were younger today? How did all that come together, or why did that story emerge right now?
Sure. Yeah, I wasn't planning to write this little memoir. I was actually writing a screenplay, and I had so many stories about when I was a cop. And, you know, another author friend actually said, you should make this into a book. And, you know, actually writing it was quite cathartic, you know, even though it was 30 years ago. I'm aging myself now, I'm not 21. So it was a very cathartic experience, actually, writing it.
Wendy, in this cathartic experience, I guess what I would love to know is were specifically some of these personal instances that you had to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
Did it have a profound effect on you? Obviously, you left the force. What was the reason you left the force? Let's ask that question first.
Okay. So really, the reason I left, I was at a stage where I could become a detective. I was in my mid-20s, and I really felt that I was actually too young to stand up and be counted for a lot of things I didn't agree with. I also felt like I didn't get paid enough to risk my life, every day. And, I either wanted to be a really good cop or not do it at all. And, to put in all that effort to, and time, I really just felt it was time to make a change. I also, it can make you hardened, and I really didn't want to sort of go down that path. Yeah, that's really, yeah.
Wendy, can I ask a question, I guess, as it relates to what's going on here in the States right now? Specifically, there's such tension. There's been such tension with civilians and the police force in many large cities and just across the entire country for some of the things that we've been seeing here during this very trying time. To someone who's been an officer and to someone now that's a civilian, I wanted to get your take on this whole thing and how it affected you when you either witnessed what was happening or obviously see what's going on and recognize that, this is so contentious.
Yeah. Well, I there's a lot of things there to wrap up. I feel, first of all, I'm originally from Australia. A lot of people think, oh, well, you're an Australian cop. A lot of, you didn't have stuff happen to you. Well, a lot of shit went down when I was a cop. I had guns pulled on me, murders, all sorts of things. So, but I will say that I was kind of shocked that this is going on today. This, the continual, injustice and, abuse of police. There's a lot of good cops, but I really, it makes me angry and sad because it shouldn't be, having a position of power. You should use that to help, not to hinder, And I really think, I'm just shocked that it's still going on today, actually. The first, I think his name was Amand, the civil, shooting arrest. When I first saw that article, I thought that was something that was 30 years ago. So I feel like, not that much has changed and it's really frustrating and sad. But I will say this will be quite controversial. I do not agree with defunding the police. I feel like police should be paid more. But in that case, you will attract a better educated and, person who, will have a more fair approach to the way they conduct their work.
Yeah, I would actually, I'm in agreement with you on this, by the way. And I'll just also say that it's not about defunding, it's about re-educating and better training. And I think if I were to put one thing, I think unfortunately, because they're always training to the least common denominator.
Right.
You're taught, many cops are taught about apathy as opposed to empathy. And just handle the situation because it could be so extreme, so dangerous. And you always have to assume the worst can happen, which is hard to be able to judge and make sure that it doesn't. So better communication, I'm sure. And there's many other tools. We know there's always a bad apple in the bunch.
But I can't understand how someone that's had multiple disciplinary charges can still be on the job. It's
totally
these, one thing I will say, I would find it pretty impossible for it to happen in Australia these days. Definitely when I was a cop in the 80s, there was the old sort of guard, and there is a little section in my memoir about some more the Indigenous people and the way that was treated. But there's so many checks and balances now, especially in the Australian police force, and I don't understand how it can't be replicated here. From the top down, there should be checks and balances.
Yeah. Actually, I think that's probably the greatest idea. Is it just can't be from city to city within the country. They should look across the globe as to what's working and what's not working.
Right. Yeah. Well, and that's another issue that I think, it's very difficult in this country because of the gun laws. We have very different gun laws in Australia. So, and this is another controversial thing. I believe in that, no civilian should carry a gun that they can, that's a semi-automatic.
Yeah.
Because there's no valid reason if, your Second Amendment right to bear arms, if you have a rifle or are a hunter or want to protect your home, then a 6-shooter should be enough. Anyway, that's...
I'm going to start nominating Wendy Wilkins for office. I think we have a potential idea here.
Well, I wasn't born here, so maybe I'll be in trouble.
So, well, Wendy, I do want to ask this question because it is interesting. When I first heard the title of your book, Sex, Love, and Cops, I was actually more surprised by what led it, which was that it's your memoir. Right. So can you give a quick, brief overview without going too much as to, I guess, really what you're covering during this window? Because obviously the title is catchy for certain.
Well, it's only 5 years of my life, and it's the 5 years in the police force. But, I was 20 years old. So it's really kind of encapsulating a young, naive girl, me, who's 20 years old, who's literally popping her cherry in many ways, both sexually. Love, my first murder, my first punch in the face. And so, it's a multitude of, cop culture, all the things that are really firsts, and how a young girl is navigating that world at that time. And I really kind of my way in of writing this book, my girlfriends and I love Sex and the City, and we grew up on that. And, I read Candace Bushnell's book, and, look, it's not, mine's not Pulitzer Prize, winning even, but it's a fast, easy read about, happenings and a through line of my young love. And there's actually a Mr. Big type character because there was a love triangle with a detective. So it's, and I really, my whole plan is I want to make it into a series like Sex and the City, but with cops. And that's, and this is why I'm an actress actually, and a writer, is maybe if someone watches an episode, it might change their thinking and, make the world a better place, one step at a time.
I like it. So let's talk about this. Acting in front of the screen, writing the content that would tell the story of what goes on the screen, or even producing all of that together. Is there one aspect of the things that you do that you like doing more than the other?
That's an interesting question. It's sort of, when I'm acting, I like a combination, actually. I think my sort of forte would probably be more in line with a showrunner, where you do a bit of everything. Yeah. Because I really am enjoying writing more and more. I only kind of started writing because starting later as an actress, I wanted a bit more control of, how I get out there. So creating my own content, So, it's a combination, actually.
Excellent. I agree. I think that's based on the fact that you've been a police officer, and I have to dive into this. You've also been a top realtor on top of all of this. Was that the immediate progression after leaving the force? Is that where you decided to make the bucks, I guess, at that point?
Well, if we've got a few hours, I can tell you a few more careers. Also, but it wasn't, and it was not an immediate, but it was kind of the next main career. Yeah. I never planned to be a realtor, but, I was actually in radio advertising after I left the police force, and a client was a big property developer. So to cut a long story short, I started in real estate with a great mentor, and really kind of very quickly rose through the ranks of that career to be the number one realtor in Melbourne. Yeah. Yeah. So, and that really, I think the key to being a great realtor, by the way, is just communication and relationships, and helping people.
Wendy, it actually makes really good sense because you were obviously helping people, being in the police force. Mm-hmm. And it also really helps to tell a good story, to be a good realtor, which is something obviously you do as a writer and a screenplay writer. So I can see that that's always been in your DNA, and you're doing all these things. It's unbelievable, by the way.
Well, I'll say one thing that it was being an ex-cop helped me as a realtor because I wasn't scared to interrogate in a nice way.
Yeah, negotiating with you would, I guess, potentially get the good cop or the bad cop. You never knew which side of the coin you were on.
I was a good cop, I think. I was, well, though I will say I was always nice until people were nasty to me, and then I could get a bit tough.
Wendy, I love asking guests on this program this question, and it would be really interesting to hear what you say. We have days when we're kicking on all cylinders and everything's working our way, but we also have days when we're not quite thriving. Right. When you're having trouble thriving, what practice do you seek, or what individual do you seek out to get yourself back on the thriving track?
You know, that's a really interesting question. And this has changed for me over the years. I used to just keep going, you know, on all cylinders until I just actually get sick, you know, and that would force me to take a break. But these days I'm really good at having more balance. If I have a day where I feel like I'm just not going to do much, I just don't. And, I just allow myself to have a slow day, or a day where I'm just kind of having a day for me and playing with my new rescue puppy. But, and then other days I feel like, wow, if someone followed me around today, they would not believe how much I got done.
You're a master of efficiency in many different ways.
Sorry?
You're a master of efficiency in many different ways. So here's the question.
Thank you.
As it relates to the writing of this memoir, was it you were very disciplined and you found a set time that you wrote it? Or was it maybe a little bit more like you were, whenever the ideas came to you? And how did you what's your writing practice is really what I'm looking for.
Yeah, I have a bit of both. When I have kind of a deadline for something, I make myself write every day. But generally my writing practice is I think about something a lot, and then I would sit down and really churn out a lot, in one sitting. But I also, a writer friend, actually she's a director friend of mine, gave me this little tip. Allow yourself to suck, and so that was, actually 2 tips. So the way I write is, I write what I'm thinking, and get it all down on the page. And then if I'm writing the memoir, for example, or anything really, a screenplay, when I get back to writing the next bit, I don't reread too much of it at once, because otherwise you're just re-editing.
Yep.
And so I'll just read a few lines back to get me into the mode, and then keep going forward and try and get a first draft out before I go back and edit.
I like it. Wendy, let's do this for the listeners. Let's take care of the admin part of the show before we go down Fun Street here. If you could share with the listeners, you're a very popular person, all the places people can find you. We'll put it all in the show notes, but it's always better when they hear it directly from you.
Okay, cool. My Instagram is at Wendy Wilkins Oz, OZ, which is the nickname for Australia. My Twitter is at Wendy Wilkins Oz, OZ. I have a website, wendywilkins.com, and you can IMDb me.
All right. And she's you've worked with some great actors and actresses. Mm-hmm. It's a lot of fun. Was it, I noticed that you had the opportunity to work with some pretty interesting and famous people. Were you a little starstruck the first time you had an encounter with them?
No, not really. Well, I suppose one of the first, and I was just really a walk-on in a film in London, but it had a lot of famous people in it. It was Martha Fiennes, Ralph Fiennes, Kristen Scott Thomas, Penelope Cruz, Damien, I'm forgetting his last name, but the guy on Homeland.
Lewis.
So Lewis, thank you. Yeah. Thank you. Thanks, Lou. And I remember I was a smoker back in those days. I had a cigarette with Kristen Scott Thomas. She was so beautiful, so warm, so lovely. Ralph Fiennes made me really nervous. And this is a funny little story. I actually was a flight attendant for a year also. And soon after that, yeah, there was some controversy about him and a flight attendant, and quite a few people thought it was me, but it wasn't. So.
Good to know that it wasn't.
Yeah.
All right. So let's do this real quickly, Wendy. This is something we call on Thrive Loud. It's Fun Street, where I'm going to ask you some questions, and I want you to just come with the first answer that comes to your mind that makes you feel good and what you think about it when I say it. So we'll start off with one, though. You have an all-time favorite movie?
Do you know what? The Talented Mr. Ripley, I love.
Oh, it's a good one. It's a good role. Yeah. Who's your favorite character in that movie?
Well, the Mr. Ripley, even though he's not a good person, it's such a fascinating story. Yeah.
Most women are enchanted by the other male lead in that movie just by how good looking he is, but that's for another podcast.
Right.
Okay. So here I go. I'm going to say a certain thing and you're going to answer it as quickly as you can. First thing that comes to your mind. We'll have some fun here. You ready?
Okay.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
A song you love to listen to that gets you excited.
The Fergie song, Party Tonight. I've got a feeling.
Okay. Your favorite food that's not a dessert?
Oh, pasta, Italian pasta.
Your favorite dessert?
Ooh, lemon meringue pie.
Okay. An activity you wish you did more of?
Go to the beach.
An activity you wish you did less of?
Housework. I'm doing all my own housework at the moment.
If you could snap your fingers and go anywhere, where are you?
Oh, I had two. Can I do two?
Yes.
One would be to my friend's chateau. She has a castle in France, and I'm godmother to her sister's son. And the other one is to go back to Australia and spend some time with my family.
Spectacular. So you pass with flying colors here, Wendy.
Oh, good.
So excited to have you on the program here today. We're going to put all the links for Sex, Love, and Cops. This is going to be by far the best, most clicked on show name. We're going to tag this everywhere. Obviously, you've done some research on what actually addresses and gets search engine optimization. Yeah. But it was a pleasure to have you on, and best of luck to you and everything that you're doing.
Well, thank you. It was not painful at all. It was a lot of fun. Thanks so much, Lou. And everybody stay safe and at home if possible.
You heard her. And she'll enforce it if you need to. You already know she has the background.
Well, I have no jurisdiction in this country, just quietly. So you're safe.
Excellent. And to all our listeners out there, keep thriving onward and upward. And remember, be brief, be bright, be gone.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Authors That Thrive, brought to you by Bedside Reading. To learn more about today's guest, head on over to bedsidereading.com. And don't forget to subscribe wherever you listen to your podcasts, or follow us everywhere on social media at Bedside Reading.
You've been listening to Thrive Loud with your host, Lou Diamond. Check us out on the web at thriveloud.com. Follow us on Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube at Thrive Loud. Check us out on the Good Pods app at Thrive Loud, where you can follow, listen, and connect directly to Lou and all of the Thrive Loud episodes. Thanks for listening.